Okay, sorry.
All right. Anyways, we became a much more efficient team. And then with the guidance from Cuyahoga and Ocean State and other libraries, we figured we could roll this out to the community. We could roll this out to libraries. So today we're at about 140 installations, including New Hampshire State Library, which just came on earlier this week. Later this fall, we'll, I think Click was here earlier this week. They'll be coming on to BTCat. So we're at about 138, 140 installations with about 1,250 libraries utilizing the system in one way, shape, or form. And I probably have another myriad of points, but I'll keep it light.
Thank you. So we'll start by talking a little bit about the need for integration. So in 2022, both Ocean State and Cuyahoga started the discussion of moving to koha. So that's when we first met with Baker and Taylor to begin the talks about integrating BTCat with koha. So prior to this, most libraries used either third-party products or manually imported records or used a Z3950 to bring records into the koha system. When we started the discussion, we said we would like to do this as an API integration to make things seamless. A lot of libraries were already using things like TS360 orders and records, manually bringing those records in. And we looked at this as an opportunity to make a direct connection with the API. So I'm going to pass it over to Nick and Travis to talk a little bit about how we started these discussions, setting up a sandbox, and testing.
So really, it worked out very well for us. The BTCat was very ready to integrate with us. We just gave them our APIs. We gave them our APIs and set up a sandbox and did a little bit of walking through it. But largely at that point, they were just able to utilize the APIs. We were fortunate that before this happened, we'd had another partner of ours help us develop the Biblio APIs. So we already had the ability to create, update, delete, and a little bit of search. Search is the one thing I think that that's where there's a lot of improvement to be seen. But we were actually able to figure out that we could do some mappings in Koha to make the search work. And at that point, they just tested on their sandbox and got things going.
And then what we found, especially the last several years, is different libraries, and I think you'll see this today, want to use the API in different ways. Chesapeake, Donna Blair, if you're out there watching, I know you use it in a very unique way compared to both Miranda and Lori. And there's a lot more we want to do with APIs, especially when it comes to batching with APIs and or authority control with APIs.
Thank you. We kind of talked a little bit about this in the initial setup. When we were testing, there was a couple things where we were searching for UPCs and keyword searching, which we were able to adjust and make work prior to go live. 5 local fields. Miranda, is that you? I remember you bringing this up maybe?
Yeah, so I will show you when I do my demo, the 5 fields that we use that are kind of local information in our Koha records. So when we migrated from Sierra to Koha, we kept a bunch of the local Sierra information in some 9XX fields just to have it if we needed to reference it or for whatever reason. And in the API with BTCat, when you pull in the record from Koha, we're matching against the record from Koha, we can take up to 5 fields and put it in the record to make sure that those are maintained when we do the overlay with API. We thankfully had exactly 5 fields that we needed. So if anybody has over 5 fields, that is a little bit of a tricky thing. So we were lucky that we just hit that limit right there and didn't need to go over, but that is one of the limitations.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to pass it over to the very lovely Lori and Miranda to do some demos so you can actually see what happens. And we'll start with Lori.
Okay, it's gonna take us a minute to
Switch over.
yes.
Can you
We're gonna do this live.
Can you do HDMI?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good. Bill here.
All right. Thank you for being patient while we swap computers out because we thought this would be better as a live demo. I just want to show you very briefly the cataloging workflows that we have for regular items with ISBNs, items with a UPC code, and then items where you don't have either a UPC code or an ISBN for matching purposes. So here I am in my home screen of Koha. I'm going to pretend I'm cataloging a book. Oops. Taking. So in my library, we do download brief records from TS360 when we place orders. I've kind of faked this record, but this is kind of representative of a brief record that we would have in our system. Generally, it has the title, it'll have an author, this one doesn't, but it always has the ISBN. I just copy that ISBN and I flip over to BTCat. So this is the BTCat home screen. The BTCat home screen has 5 different ways of searching. The keyword for us is grayed out. We would like to get keyword up and running. So we really have 4 ways of searching. But I flip that ISBN in here and I search, and we have our BTCat instance set up to search not only the Baker-Taylor catalog, but through Z39.50, it is querying my own catalog. So it finds my record in my library, which helps with the matching and the overlaying. It is also searching other libraries, such as Columbus Metro, LA Public. We use the Evergreen system, Brooklyn County. So the great thing about this is, and we have like 10 other targets that we search at the same time, it gives us a variety of results. We kind of like that, especially since we know some of these libraries have similar cataloging standards to our own. So what I do with that, I mean, and the other thing you'll notice with BTCat, if for those of you who don't use it, BTCat has an algorithm that runs that you can adjust that tells you which is the best record based upon your own criteria. So, you know, the best ones are showing up here with the green dot next to it. You'll notice my own record in my own catalog is yellow because it's missing some of these fields. Our standards are, you know, we're looking for a call number, we're looking for an LC heading, we're looking for things like summary notes. Those things would make it more green. So here I have it, and I can see right here where it says Koha test. I'm getting 2 results back, but you know what? I only really want this one, taking tea with Macintosh. We'll see what it does when I export that. And I've got a BTCat community record, and I got a Library of Congress record. There are ways, you know, I could look at these together and compare them side by side. There we go, to see what's the difference between these records, and it has synced scrolling. So, you know, you're always looking at kind of similar fields. And I make my decision. So, you know, I think I'm going to go with the BTCat community record here. Sorry. And sorry, our internet is a little bit slow. I have this little link here that says check my catalog. That link goes out. Oh, and it says no records match. Bummer, that's my own fault. This was supposed to match because it has 2 ISBNs in the catalog. It's not matching. Well, I have a way of forcing that to match. So I've got a little macro on the side that says, you know what? I know that I have a record in my catalog and I'm going to make it match anyway. So it brings up this little macro that's going to add a 935 field to the record. What I need to put in that 935 field to force a match is my record ID number. That is a preference that we have in my library. You can match on other things, but we prefer to match on record ID number because it's very precise. You always overlay the record you intend to overlay that way. Record ID number, for any of those you don't know, when you're looking at a record, the ID number is up there in the URL. I can go, oops. I can go back here to BTCat. I can plug that in and execute it and see it will add that field to the bottom of the record. And when I say save to catalog, I save to local workspace, which is set up as my own personal catalog. That tells me that that MARC record has been saved to my local workspace with the database record number, and it gives me that record number. If I come over to my own Koha instance, it didn't do it. It's taking a minute.
On the fly.
Yeah, I know. Did I not do that right? Did I not pass it right? I'm gonna try passing it one more time. Oh, yeah, you're right. CCPL koha test, save to local workspace. I'm not used to doing it there. Okay. So now let's try that again. Come on. There we go. Yay. So it's in here. It's now in Koha. I can edit it. I can update it. I can do whatever I want. I can print labels, whatever. We have the same sort of thing set up for UPC codes. Let's see, what do I have with my UPC code? Stone roses. Here's my record. Let's skip this one. Let's do the other one I have here. They might be giant. No. Okay. So here's another brief record that I have. This time it is for, whoops, I hit the wrong button. This time it is for an AV item where the match point is going to be a UPC code. I open up my record here. There's that UPC code in my baby bib. I come over to BTCat. Instead of searching ISBN, I search the UPC, except it didn't take it. Copy. Oops. Well, we'll just type that in. I'm not messing around with it. 011 XX 1 324. Again, I get search results. I can see, this is BTCat's community records. I can see a record from Columbus Metro, LA County. And here's my poor little baby bib down there saying, oh yeah, it's not a very good record. Again, I'm just for the sake of brevity, because Melody's got to come up, we're gonna look right here and gonna take this first record. Again, I put the match point. Oh, nope, wrong record. There's multiple here. There we go. Okay, so now it's telling me that I have a control. This is my record in CCPL test. Over here is my record that I want to replace this one with. I want to replace the BTCat record with. I want to replace my record in my own instance with the BTCat record. I am going to edit this. I am going to check my catalog. And why is it not doing this? Oh, and I'm going to add my 935. So it should be, if I scroll down here with that little plus sign, yep, there it is. My 935 is added. So I'm going to save it. And again, it tells me that it was saved to the workspace. It's got a record ID number of blah-de-blah. And we're going to come back over here and I will refresh this. Ta-da. So it's super fast, super easy to use. My staff love it. You can set up macros to do all sorts of things. Lots of, we don't tend to use them real heavily, but you can set up macros to take fields out of records. Like for example, if you don't use children's headings or mesh headings, you can set up a macro that says, when I click this, take those all out. We're not super macro heavy, but this is kind of the workflow we have, and my catalogers love it. You can enter diacritics, lots of editing options there. You can save your records on an online file. You can resend them without waiting for them to show up, which you had to do in OCLC or Sky River. We were a Sky River library before this. So we absolutely love it, and it's been a real time saver for us. So Miranda.
Okay, so I'm going to show also how we use the API. Some of it's similar to what you just saw, but we are heavy macro users. So I'm going to show you that side of it. So the first example I have is a Wonderbook, Playaway, audio-enabled book. Yeah, Wonderbook. So we search in BTCat. Let me actually get rid of some of these others to make it speedier. So we search our ISBN, and we find, in this case, there's just one record that shows up. I turned off searching the Z3950 targets just to save a few seconds because it takes a little longer. So that's why this came up just immediately like this, as opposed to Lori's where you saw those green and orange dots showing the match preferences. If there's only one record, and we try to start searching in BTCat community alone first, because that's ultimately where we want to get the record from. And then we go out to other sources if there isn't a BTCat community record. So you can see, brings up a record. It's pretty full, has all those beautiful RDA fields that do something. And, and all these subject headings. You can see it has genre headings, series, all of this wonderful stuff. The way that we do our macro is we have one that is just called Ocean State Batch Edit. Now this is one macro we run on everything. Every type of format. It is super, super extensive. Before we went to BTCat, we were on OCLC, and there is a little bit of, like there's some macro functionality in OCLC, but it wasn't as robust as this. And maybe it is, but it was like a lot more complicated to get into. And so we ended up doing, like we would find a record in OCLC, but then we would run it through MarcEdit with lines and lines and lines, a task list that was so long. And then when we went to BTCat, we basically gave them our MarcEdit task list, and they said, okay, great. And then they turned it into this macro. So we run it and we just say what the audience is. So we only use 3 audiences: juvenile, YA, or adult. So we just put the code in, and that code tells it what to do to subject headings, what to change in the 008, what to do with series, what to do with, if it's a graphic novel, it changes some of the formatting. So we run it, and what it did was, anytime there's this blue highlighted section, that means that the macro did something to that field. For audio-enabled books, we add these 2 local genre headings so that we can easily pull them up. And then we don't use 800 series tags, we use 830. So it flips the 800 to an 830 for us. I'm not sure what it did to this subject here, maybe added a period or something like that. It adds source of summary not specified to the ends of the summaries. It spells out anything that wasn't fully spelled out in the 300. So if it just said, excuse me, P period, it spells it out to pages. It removes the U in color if it was originally cataloged in the UK. It adds our initials, and there's a setting in your user settings where you can say, here's my initials, and then you can set up a macro to always pull whatever is in that initials field and add it to whatever mark tag you specify. So this is how we tell, or like we keep track of statistics in our catalog, who did it and when they did it. So we have that, let's see. And then no other blue highlighted fields. This was a pretty clean record to begin with. There was only, sometimes series entries get added depending on what catalog or what library uses it. Sometimes there's the, book before it or the number sign. We strip all of that out. So if there were any, qualifiers around this number here, it would strip those out. And then I don't think there were any juvenile subject headings in this. So the 650s that have a second indicator of 1. But if it did, it would have flipped those to second indicator 0, because that's what we use locally. Deletes fast headings, it deletes, sorry, Fred, it deletes mesh headings. It deletes anything that we don't use in our system. Yeah. I don't think you're likely cataloging a Magic Treehouse Wonder Book anyway.
Don't use the 060.
We don't use the 060. Yeah, so there's like a lot of, sometimes there's various BISAC headings and stuff. It'll strip all of that out. And it's all based on what we tell them. So each month we have a meeting where we say, hey, we found this new thing. Can you add it to the macro? And so it's always great. So now, once we've run our macro, collapse this. I'm going to save a copy of this to our local workspace. And that just means we save a copy of everything that we catalog just so we know who did it, when it was done. And then I'm going to just do a research to make sure both are saved. And we can now see that there are 2 records. One is from BTCat Community, one is from Ocean State Libraries. That's us. And now we want to check my catalog. So we click this button right here.
Can you both confirm this is not the normal speed, so I don't.
This is not the normal speed.
It works much faster.
So here's an example of it's finding 2 records in Koha. We can see all the way to the right, the BTCat number at the top, that 001, matches the one on the left. The one all the way to the left is the one that I just saved. These 2 are ones that it's pulling from Koha. Now we can see like this ISBN is different. The 001, this is an OCLC record from a long time ago. And if we look at it, we see this is actually just the regular book. So there is a setting that you can turn on to match on ISBN or standard number only, or standard number and title. And I have this turned on because this is often how I find a duplicate record in our system that needs to be merged. So even though the ISBN might be different on 2 records, for example, a hardcover and a paperback, we put those on the same record. So this is going to find the one with the ISBN that I was originally searching, as well as any other record with the same title and format. I'm not sure how much it looks at beyond title. I think it's just title, right? Yeah. So if there were also an audiobook of this, if there were a board book of this, it would also find anything that had the same title. So sometimes it can get overwhelming, the amount of things it matches. But For the most part, it doesn't turn up too many duplicate matches like this, and I can easily figure out which one is which. So this middle one, this is the book. I don't want that. I want the audiobook or the audio-enabled book. So I can just close out of that one, and now I'm looking at these two side by side, and I have this plus in the top corner that when I hit it, I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see now I have 5 fields that came, or 4 fields in this case. Oh no, this one doesn't have 2. Okay, so there's 5 total that we do match on and bring over this way. This record specifically is missing 2 of them. So this has this 997, the 935, and the 942, which is under here. We bring these over that this one wasn't, this one was created in Koha. So it doesn't have the series of Sierra specific information. It just has some of this Koha information we want to bring over with us. So it has this bottom, the item type, and the 945, which is where we store who created the record and who was the last person to edit it. So we always have that data pretty easily accessible, and we don't want to lose that. So sometimes you can also protect the fields on the Koha end so that they don't get overlaid, but we just do this as an added protection. And so once I bring those over, you can see my 935 right here with the Koha biblio number. I'm going to click Save to Ocean State Koha. Oops. And now when I go back, it doesn't look that different because we had originally brought in a brief version, but it was an early version of the BTCat record. But if I click the mark preview, we can see now it has my initials right here, and that's how I know this definitely got overlaid. So sometimes it looks like the records Lori had that were super, super brief, and then you immediately can see it got really filled out. Other times we're overlaying something that was brought in via Z3950, but as a brief record. So our system, the library staff order a book and then bring in a record, and then that gets a CAT code on it, which tells us at the OSL staff side that this needs to be overlaid and run through the whole macro process at BTCat. So sometimes the records are brought in, and it is a pretty good record already. It just hasn't gone through the macro and all of that. And then I do have a Blu-ray record. Also, Laura, your presentation reminded me of a bug I want to file. That if you are in the advanced editor, this is not, it's going to go to basic, hold on. If you're in the advanced editor and you just copy like the UPC from there, it's not going to work because it adds the subfield A at the beginning of it. And the search boxes for UPC and ISBN are set so that it won't accept anything that's not a number. So it starts with the letter A, so we can't paste it into the UPC. Mm-hmm.
I believe that's but 2165, which already has attached to the field array.
Oh, well, someone fix it. Oh, sorry, Travis. This one has 2 records for the same UPC, but you can see one is green and one is orange. So we want the green one because we set it up to match on a bunch of different fields. We only want things with Library of Congress subject headings. We want to make sure there's a 300 subfield C. So pull up this record and scroll through it. This is also a pretty clean record, just have this one, uncontrolled name, which might be just because that name doesn't exist. But we run the macro. And I'm putting E for adult on this one. Yeah. I'm just assuming. And so you can see, oh my gosh, I'm so not used to multiple fingers on the trackpad. I don't like the trackpad. Okay, so we can see it just did some, I don't know, it did something to these. Sometimes there's a stray period at the end of an LCGFT. So it might have removed that there. This add the source of summary not specified. This one added those 3x fields. Then it added a local practice for us is to add Blu-ray edition as a 250. So it added that in, added my initials again, and then added usually when the 008 is edited, it's because I added a audience that wasn't there before. So this might not have had the E audience. And sometimes, something is more like general audience, but we just still put E so that it's not specifically juvenile subject headings. One cool thing about the macro is this record doesn't have it, but if this had a 264 second indicator 4 with the copyright year, if up here in the 008, where it says S 2017, if this also had a copyright date, it would then update that to put the copyright date automatically into the 008, which is pretty cool. So I've run the macro on this, and now I'm going to save it. Oops. Telling you, me and trackpads do not work. Okay, local workspace. So I'm going to search it again, make sure that now I have my Ocean State Libraries one. Check my catalog. And we did not have this enabled until yesterday. It was very exciting that now I can check my catalog, and you'll see, voila, it's matching on UPC. However, because I have also the title search checked, it's finding anything called Hindenburg. So this to me is worth it. The amount of times that it comes up with 8 or more like this is very rare. And much more often, I'm finding multiple records that should not be multiple records. So it is worth it for me to have check my catalog on with the title. But now I'm realizing the issue with this example is that there are more than 8 things called Hindenburg. So the actual one I want to overlay is not in this results list. So this might be a case where I want to then go into my preferences, disable title search, and then try this again. I still have my UPC training wheels on, guys. Bear with me. Yay! So now that worked. And how often am I searching for how often am I searching for something where there are 8 other things titled that or more? Pretty rare, unless it's like a book called Europe. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, so sorry. All right, so now I'm going to do my add the 935. You can see my fields came over. You can see down at the bottom, this is a local field that we add to our records that when somebody is initially searching in BTCat, if there wasn't a record, they would then go out to Z3950 and find it. So we have a record saying there wasn't a BTCat record at the time. I got it from Ohio, but since they added this, whenever that was, there is now a BTCat record. So we do try to leave these brief run, or the call for cataloging is what we call them. These records brought in by the library staff, we let them sit for a little bit because often in the intervening time, a BTCat record is added. So then I click save. And now we can see my initials are here in the 099. So ours is a little bit more, I guess, time consuming than the other one, just because we do have that macro step. But if you knew how much time we spent manually making all of these changes, it is so much time saver, like crazy. And then I did have another example of one that would show duplicates in Koha, but we already came across that by accident. So any questions?
You just delivered a lot of really good information late in the conference.
Yeah. Travis, was there something you wanted me to show?
I'm doing my best not to hijack or not go into a sales pitch. You know, there are many different workflows that we have in BTCat. We're very batch search friendly, native authority control, myriad of different bibliographic resources that we're paying for coming into BTCat. Again, our growth, I think, has been fairly exceptional in a short period of time. And, you know, our viewpoint is you own the records and it's time for some change. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Elise from Hotchkiss. We currently use OCLC and we import our records with OCLC connection, and it automatically shows our holdings in WorldShare. Is anything like that possible with this?
Not currently. I know that that is a common thing, is how do we show holdings? How do we keep track of holdings? BTCat currently doesn't do that. It doesn't show holdings in, you know, WorldCat or anything like that. It does keep track on the back end. If you did a search, you could see when you extracted it in the past, but that's not visible to other people. And that's part of the reason that we do keep a local copy of things, because we could essentially overlay it and then delete it from our BTCat catalog. But we do like to keep a local one so that we have a record. If somebody's like, didn't that get overlaid? We can go back and check to see if we had cataloged it before, but there's no holdings like OCLC, yeah.
Okay. And also, I'm really only familiar with OCLC, but I know that if I find an error or add some additional information to a record, I can put that into OCLC. Is there anything like that where you can make a correction and improve it for anyone using?
Sort of. There's certain logic coded into it where if you upgrade a record and if you change it to a better encoding level, it will take a look at that and say, oh, here are all of the things that were added, and add some of those. But there isn't like across the board, you can just replace the record. You can easily email them and they will fix anything right away.
I will, well, yes, I'll share it. I will say my one original cataloger has been kind of authorized to update the records. So we do make changes in BTCat to correct errors that we find. So it is possible. Yeah.
Thank you.
That'll work.
Like you can make new records from scratch in BTCat and bring them over too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and duplicate them as well.
Yeah, you can clone a record and make a new one. But it does all focus around a standard number. So if you try to create a new record with the same ISBN that's already in another record, it shouldn't let you create a whole new one.
Hi,
Hi.
Kim Neary from Hotchkiss. So two things. One, to kind of piggyback on Elise's comments. So our director was a cataloger for a long time. And when I presented this particular option to her, she was immediately skeptical because OCLC is the king amongst most of those older school catalogers and was not sure what the quality of the records were compared to what is offered in OCLC. So that is a question of hers. And I don't know how to rectify that now. We don't have to. We can maybe have another side conversation about that. The one other challenge that we see based on what you just talked about with holdings is if we were to migrate to something like this, we would still need to use OCLC for interlibrary loan. Therefore, our holdings would be an imperative to make sure that we had those in. And I don't know if anybody else has done something like this. Is there a way for you to set like batch send OCLC your holdings information and like have them upload it onto their thing? Or is that just like not even a thing? So, I mean, if nobody knows the answer to that, that's great. If somebody does eventually, that would be awesome to know.
I could say I can't answer the interlibrary loan part of it because we don't belong to OCLC and haven't for interlibrary loan since 2009. We just rely on our statewide sharing to fulfill that need. But in terms of quality, we've been working with Baker and Taylor with BTCat and testing and evaluating it since 2018 when they first conceived of it. And we made the move because the record quality, we felt exceeded what we were getting. And I will say that, and we've all been there. You open up a box of books, you pull that out and you're like, oh, there's got to be a record for this. And all you find is a very provisional level record. We don't see that very often in BTCat. We see very full records because generally speaking, they are supplying, the BTCat kind of community file is supplying records for all of their CLS customers. So they want to have that record cataloged really fast. So there's usually a full level record there. We don't have any problems with not finding full cataloging.
So I don't know the exact procedure, but I know we have multiple ways to export things from Koha and get your holdings out. So if we need to update OCLC, that's a thing that we can figure out. And if we don't have the perfect way right now, if you noticed at any point, Travis and I were both furiously writing down things to make a list of things we'd like to do and improve. So it's always, something just to ask about. Just bring us your problem and we try to figure out what the actual solution to it is.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I stole your microphone.
It's okay.
I'll repeat what you said.
Okay. If we are not currently purchasing our books from BT, can we still do this?
You can.
Yes.
We've got some yes. We have some very large library systems who never interface with Baker and Taylor. They use Ingram or Brodart or, dare I say, Amazon. I cringe, but they can still find the records. Jackson County, Oregon's a good example. I'm pretty sure they're Koha. Chesapeake, they're Koha. Several others that are finding. I don't know what your current hit rate is, Lori, but I would say 91% of the time we should have a full encoding level bib in the system. And then, of course, the Z39 targets as they cascade out can fill in a significant portion of those gaps. And we've tested that for large academics too.
Yeah, and they recently changed it so you can have 30 Z3950 targets, which is awesome because it was 10 and we hit that really quick. But now we can have 30. So we have like our list of libraries, and these are just libraries that either were in the Z3950 setup when we went live with BTCat, like they just came with it, or they're ones that publish their Z3950 information out there. But we have all of these.
Just wanted to say that Koha does come with a Z3950 server. So if any of you have made cataloging friends here and would like to be each other's Z3950 sources, please let us know. We can get you that information, which you can either make public or just share to the select few that you want to. But yeah.
I would say something about that. We're running out of time. So.
We are running out of time. Stephen wants to say one thing that's quick and easy.
I have a transition question for the next presenter, and I'm curious about the potential relationship between AI bots and Z39.50, and can they exploit that with Z39.50 information posted publicly? But I can wait until after the commercial break.
That was an amazing transition question. Thank you all for talking so much about BTCat.